Hello students. Today I'm bringing you a video on sourced arguments, which is your final assignment for the course, is writing an argument using sources. Today we're going to be going over why you might use sources and a little bit of how you would go about searching for those sources. In the future, I'm going to talk a lot more about how to find sources and how to cite them. So to begin with, let's answer the question of why you might use sources. Now, the first and maybe most important reason is for you to strengthen your argument for your audience. And remember, you should always be thinking about your audience and thinking about what they want and what they're getting from your writing. So strengthening your argument using facts and data is going to be important for nearly every audience who matters when you're making an argument. Also, when you use sources, you build your authority in the eyes of your audience again. It shows that you've done your legwork, done your research, and that you know what you're talking about, which is your authority. The other reason to use sources is to show that you're adding to a conversation that already exists. Someone has talked in some way about nearly everything you can find to talk about. And when you add to that conversation, you are adding to the body of knowledge that is already there. And using sources helps show the body of knowledge that you are adding to. Other people have talked about this. It's important. I'm going to talk about it as well. This is a good thing for your audience to know and understand. Also, when you use sources, you are giving your audience a place to go to get their own information, which gives you a common ground with them. You show where you got your knowledge, they can go and look at that and say, okay, well, I understand where you got this, I believe it, but it looks like this person also talked about this, or instead they were talking about this other thing as well. So it gives you a way that you can have a back and forth with your audience, a way that they can understand what you're saying and add to it themselves, which is a really good way. You want to bring your audience in any argument into your conversation. You want to make them feel as though they know enough that they can go out and look at this information and then respond to you. Even if you've convinced them fully, you should give them the opportunity to do that. All right. As far as finding sources goes, just searching the internet is generally not good enough. Some of the information that you're going to find is fine, but as I've demonstrated throughout this course, anyone with an internet connection can upload videos to YouTube. So instead, it's better to use a collection of sources that people have looked at and considered already. Ideally, you're going to find a collection that's easy to search, which I would suggest you start with the Towson Library. And I'm going to suggest that you start doing that on your own. I am going to upload my own video of myself using the Towson Library website to do some research. So you'll have an example of me doing that. If you are struggling, just let me know, chat with a librarian. Anyone involved in this would be happy to help you. So when you're finding sources, you should start with the basics. And by the basics, I mean some data, the numbers, who is going to benefit, and that's how many people, how much are they going to benefit, stuff like that. After that, when you have the numbers, often the numbers include how much it costs. I forgot to mention that. After that, you should start thinking about connections. What other information can you get that would help you make your argument? How is your issue like other issues, either issues that have been faced by other organizations or issues that have faced your organization that are slightly similar? How can you take that information and apply it to your particular argument? Also, it's good to think about the possible side effects from dealing with the particular problem that you want people to deal with. So if you solve the parking problem on campus, what else would it solve? Or what other problems might it cause? Even if it's going to cause problems, it's good for you to talk about that, because you might have some possible solutions that you can add, or you know that this is a conversation that needs to be dealt with before people make any decisions. So I have an example for you. If I am arguing that the Towson Athletics Department should add esports to their list of things that they support, what are some basics that I might want to include? So I came up with a short list. We might want to get some numbers. How many students play competitive video games both in college and in high school? How many schools have esports teams across the nation? How many schools that are near us? Because if you're doing esports competitions, ideally you want to be having those in person in LANs so that ping is not an issue. What kind of market cap does the competitive gaming industry have? This is important for showing how large this is and what kind of growth we might talk about that in the competitive gaming industry to help show the people who are going to be making decisions that this is a large industry. And then we might want to estimate how much it would cost the school, estimate how much money it would bring in. So these are some basics. I'm sure you can think of other numbers that you might want to include that would help people to make decisions based on this. Now, if we think about connections, if we think creatively, what other sources might we want to look at? What other information might we want to gather? Comparisons might we want to make when we're trying to make this argument? I also came up with the list here. We have all of that data from the basics, all of the numbers of people involved, the money that's involved, other schools around the area. Why don't we compare this data to the data that we have on traditional sports? How many students at Towson are involved? How much money does the university spend on that versus how much they bring in? Stuff like that. I also might want to include sources that talk about the benefits that people who play esports gain from playing those things. How do those benefits compare to those of traditional sports? How are they different? We might talk about the potential effects of having an esports team on recruiting students and retaining students. Those types of things are important to the people who make decisions about this. Might point out that this offers the school more options for name recognition for Towson. How much would this involve students? If I find data that shows that the number of students who are attending athletic department events is declining, maybe something like this could benefit those numbers. And then I also might want to compare this, like the kind of benefits that students would get, to the benefits of club teams or student groups. I know that there are already club esports teams on campus, student groups that focus on competitive gaming, things like that. And there are many, many other connections, and all of these are things that you can find sources for and things that you can talk about in an essay on this topic. Esports should be added to the Towson Athletics Department. Everything here is fair game for you to talk about and research. So I can find a lot of things, I can think of a lot of things for the basics and for the connections here, I think creatively, and a lot of that is because I care about this topic. This is something that I've done a lot of thinking about, and it's fun for me to think about this and to talk about it. So when you are picking your topic, you want to pick something that you are going to enjoy reading about and researching and arguing for. So it's really important for you to pick something that you care about and are interested in. All right, that's it for this video. I will have more in the future. Hope you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions.